And we are live. So, welcome everybody to our yet another very cool talk. This ambiguity in design. Everything you know about design is wrong. Here is why and what you can do about it. By Udhaya. He currently leads design delivery and design ops at Design It, helping global clients craft human-centered experiences that not only unlock business value, but also enhance the way we live, work, and play. So please, the stage is yours. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks. First of all, thanks to you and thanks to the entire conference team for having put this up. Yeah, we would have loved to, do this in person, but it is what it is. So I'm super glad here. And yeah, I think so. Disclaimer: my title is not a clickbait. Uh, a lot of people actually, told me that it sounds like clickbaitish, but it's not. I think I also gone through a lot of things in the last 25 years, and I thought it's basically time to basically call it a spade, if you will. So I mean, it's not a scary part. I'm just going to spend the next 25 minutes ruminating about how I started, what I did, and yeah. So without further ado, let me start with my disclaimer first. uh, uh, so not kind of a disclaimer, but it's boring. So yeah, I'm a huge Yoda fan. I'm a practicing designer from the last 24 years and counting, and I still on the learning path. I'm still on the learning path. Learning never ends, and I will tell you, I'll give some anecdotes as to why I say what I say. And the second point also is super critical and part of a leadership team of a world-class problem-solving design agency. All of this is great. We're 29 years old. We are known for the stuff that we do, problems that we solve, but all the things that I'm going to talk about is not necessarily reflecting of what my current employer feels or what my previous past employers. This is my stuff. So I just wanted to do that. So bear with me. The first few minutes would be boring. Since I cannot see the number of participants or even can't see faces, and assuming whoever is listening in, design is like a very ambiguous word. Design can mean many things, but at least in currently in the world, in our world, uh, designers also think this way, and non-designers and consumers of design outcomes also think this way, that design is super shiny. Design is all about the skin. Design should be simple and easy, right? It doesn't matter what problem you're solving. Design should make things simple, make things easy. uh, Design is design. Yeah, anything and everything can be solved by design, and what it solves should be absolute. Last, and all of that is great, but design has to be cheap. I mean, you can't ask me for $1 million for a problem that you solve, which can give me $100 million. It has to be cheap, because designers are dozen a dime. And the corollary to that is, amazingly, all non-designers actually think they know design better than practicing designers. So that's where the economics goes down. And the last one is kind of the word god. Everybody thinks Photoshop, design. So there are a lot of other misapprehensions also, but I think this summarizes that this is the understanding of what design should be. But then if you correlate that, design outcomes are aesthetically pleasing. People like things that are nice, that are good looking, but that's not it. Design outcomes are also supposed to be simple and easy. And when they're simple and easy, getting them to be simple and easy is very hard. I mean, there's a lot of grit and glory and blood and sweat and tears that actually go behind it. So people, there's a lot of work that happens, right? Design is not is not absolute. It is always a work in progress. There is always a room for improvement, and that's why it never is done. Design should never be looked upon as cheap or very expensive. Design should be looked upon as something that should be affordable, that should be made affordable, so that problems at scale can be solved. And design is not created in Photoshop or a plethora of tools that keep changing every 3 months to 6 months. Design outcomes are done by or created by people, and more importantly, in this case, people like you and I, people who are designers, practicing designers, want to be designers, students learning design. So basically, it is people centered and not they are not tool centered. So basically, so much for all the lipstick on the pig. So all of this is great. We started with cave paintings, and then we somehow figured out to chisel stones, use to a stone, carve out weapons to hunt, build huts, move from we moved to agriculture. We have taken a quantum leap in the last 65 or so thousand years as documented, and we've come to a world where everything, almost everything, can happen at the touch of a button, at the tap of a button. So why, yes, a lot of people, a lot of humans, the human civilization has actually undergone massive transformation, and things have changed. But the point to ask ourselves as designers is, but what about us? Do we take pride in the fact that design, uh, we are catching up, or we are in sync with the evolution that happens in design, or are we lagging? Should we do things better, or are there things that we really do not need to care? Basically, it's a large looming question. So that sets the that's kind of that sets the soft launch for what I'm going to talk about. So this is a point to ponder, right? We've come a long way, but as designers, have we come a long way, and where do we go next is what I'm trying to summarize. So to begin with the beginning, again, in the audience, there may be practicing designers, there may be people curious about design, there are students who want to pursue design or are already pursuing design. So why do you want to be a designer, right? I mean, just give me a minute. I'm sorry about it. Okay. So why do you want to be a designer? There are a gazillion reasons as to why people want to be a designer. And yeah, I mean, here are the top half a dozen. People, most of the designers, it's guaranteed that you will hear these. You shouldn't be surprised if you hear these. I want to be a designer because it's cool. It pays big money. I want to change the world. I solve problems because I'm creative and because I'm empathetic, and a gazillion other reasons. But are these the real reasons? Are these the only reasons that you want to be a designer? Maybe yes, maybe no. But yeah, we will see how it unfolds. All that is great. What makes you think that you are a really you're really good at it? You're a great designer, right? Well, I win awards. I know the tools at the back of my hand. I can pretty much design things in my sleep. Hey, I was lucky enough to go to a design school. I learned a lot of stuff. you know Check out my dribble, check out my behance, check out all the raves that I get. So you shouldn't be questioning about what makes me really good at it. So I always sit back and reflect, and I end such thought processes or statements when I hear with a question mark and say, really? And then the last one is amazing, right? I'm just good, period. Take it or leave it. And we designers are at fault, actually. Yes, if not all of us, some of us definitely exhibit such things. And that's again something one needs to think about uh, in depth. So yeah, I've been asking, disclaimer, I'll be asking you to pause and reflect, not during this stuff, but definitely whatever you hear, don't take it at face value, but also think about what is being told, why is it being told, and all that. So you're great, you're cool. I'm a designer because I want to save the world, I want to change problems, and I like it because it pays me big money. All of that, things that you saw in the previous slides, all that is great. But what about impact? It's easy to say I want to change the world, I want to make somebody's life better, but do you granularize that? Have you really thought about you know the impact that your outcomes and not outputs, right? What is the impact? Is it good impact? Is it bad impact? Or is the impact going to impact something else? Is it going to disrupt something? There are a lot many things that actually kick into the picture. It is not just taking a brief, rolling up your sleeve because you're a tool ninja, or because you've been doing this for 20 years and you know it. That's not what it is. You need to reflect, because the whole world is moving towards everything that is grounded in impact. How does it help me? How does it personal, personal, societal, how does it impact? So that's where design is headed. So point to ponder. So the summary is, you can do all the things you can want, you can get raves, you can do a lot of stuff, you can earn a paycheck, you can do all of the things, but you need to always think about the kind of impact that your outcomes, that your work is going to happen advertently or inadvertently. So all of this is great, like, and there is the huge debate in the industry, right? Design is a huge ocean, there are so many different forms. Way back, it all started with industrial design and then human factors in the mid 19th century, if you will. And then design has come a long way, and it has been exponential in the last 20 25 odd years. We do now have multiple seats at the proverbial table, but are we doing enough? Now, for us to do enough, we need to know what we are doing, and there are different kinds of forms, flavors of designers there are, right? Right from maybe a graphic designer to the so-called everything gets unicorn of late, right? You have unicorn designers, a designer who can do everything that you can think of. So all of this is great, but yeah, what kind of a designer are you, right? I mean, it reminds me of this famous song. Are you in love with the shape of you as a designer, or do you want to change your shape, and what kind of a designer are you, right? So the industry has been debating about it. As with many things, a lot of things get distilled, and they basically, there are directions. Are these grounded? Are these completely grounded and carved in stone? Nobody knows. It may be, may not be. But basically, you know, designers are actually classified into certain archetypes, and it all began with I to the T. It again reminds me of the nursery rhymes, like it's I to the T to the whatever alphabet you want to say. So yeah, you basically broaden your skills first and foremost. This is not applicable to design, but I think this is applicable to any subject, any topic, or any specialization. We always crawl before we walk. We start with the basics. It's like language. You actually begin with alphabets, and then you start forming words, and then you start forming sentences. So basically, you always start on a broad horizon. You pick up the surface skills, and then as you pick up the surface skills, sooner or later you'll find yourself actually going deeper into one or more domains or subjects or adjacencies. And this can be applied for any topic, like I said. So from the design perspective, you always get some basic skills, and then you move from the I to the T. And what that means is, you may have amazing graphic design or visual design chops, and you're 50% gray from 49.5% gray, right? You are you're a master of the pen tool. You know your colors, you know your layout, you know your grid, you know your balance, all of that. You're great. Now, do you actually go deeper and deeper and deeper till the point of no return, or wherever you hit the seabed? Or do you actually look around other areas where you can apply whatever you have in terms of your depth of skills, and actually try and broaden your stuff? And that actually brings in this other archetype of designer called a T-shaped designer, who basically have a very deep uh, handle on a specific area of expertise, and basically it becomes applied areas, right? So they apply, for example, you may start as a visual or a graphic designer, you move up the value chain, and you learn a lot of nuances about human behavior, psychology, and probably you'll move up the value chain being a UXer. There is a huge debate in the industry again between UI and UX being the same, UI and UX being separate, and then UI UX being renamed as digital designers and product designers and whatnot. So so the point is, yes, what a UI designer does and what a UX designer does, there are definitely clear cut differences, but more often than not, they're very, very malleable. A UI designer can definitely become a UXer, and if you're a UXer and if you have good design chops, aesthetic chops, you can actually be a UI. But more often than not, and unfortunately in the industry, it is expected that when somebody says I want to hire a UI designer, or when I say I want a UX designer, they expect them to do it all. And the good part is, most of the designers who are in that role and in that space actually are comfortable doing a bit of both, right? So that's the difference between an I-shaped designer and a T-shaped designer. Now what next? Then in the most recent years, if you will, we moved from the I to the T to the X. Now is nothing X is nothing but, again, you're basically having your core deep skills, and then you also cut across with other non, I wouldn't say non core, but I would say broader things like design leadership. uh, DevOps, design operations, is another big thing that's happening, and yeah, it should reach mainstream. So the opportunities are more. Do you want to be a practicing designer? Do you want to be a semi-practicing designer and move up the value chain to manage designers? Coach them, mentor them, or a lot leadership skills get into the space. So these are called X-shaped designers. Basically, and some people call them as the unicorns. Now, leadership can actually be replaced with, I'm a great designer and I'm also a great developer. I can not only create concepts and create prototypes, I can actually bring them to life by actually writing the front end code or the middleware code, and some of them even go and dabble with backend. So the industry also is changing on that, and it is also impacting and influencing the emergence of a lot of X-shaped designers across the board. For example, extended reality, AR and VR and all of that stuff. It is that much hard for you to just conceptualize certain experiences and then wait out for that to be actually brought to life. A lot of people have actually picked up skills on Unity. A lot of people have already started picking up some basic programming skills. And all of this actually are good for the industry and good for individual aspirations of wannabe designers and those of you who are already designers. So basically, it's like a refined, distilled form of a hub and spoke model. You have a central skill set, and then you radiate across different areas. And why you are able to thrive is because you pick up a lot of nuances and do's and don'ts, and you basically develop those muscles. And that's kind of a snapshot of an X-shaped designer. Now we moved from the I to the T to the X. Is there anything else? Because things keep changing, and change is the only constant. The answer turns out that yes, we moved from the I to the T to the X to the pi. Now, yeah, it's 22/7 pi constant. All of that is great, but yeah, the hypothesis around a pi-shaped designer is you're basically a multiple T-shaped designer. And I personally don't see any reason why a pi cannot have an X in one of the T stems. So the analogy is this: you actually have deep skills in more than one area of specialization in that ocean called design, and also you have very broad applied knowledge of where it can be applied. This is a common example that comes to my mind is about a few years back. Now of late it is dying down, but a few years ago there was this huge Uberization of everything. I'm building the Uber of food, I'm building the Uber of hourly delivery, I'm building the Uber of schools. And so if you really look at the heart of it, basically Uber disintermediated something that was you know completely closeted. The way people used to commute was something that they disrupted by basically removing all the friction points, and they created a multi-site platform where they just connected the supply to the demand. And then Airbnb did that. A lot of other companies have done it. You can actually Google and you'll get a lot of things, and it became a rage. But at the heart of it, if you really look at it, those designers did not just sit and do certain things that they're supposed to do and move out. They actually asked a lot of questions. you know why can't this happen? You basically question the status quo, and that comes after many years of practice and intense focus. You won't get it from the get-go. So an example is, maybe you started as a great visual designer and then you moved up the value chain becoming a UI UXer, and then you suddenly caught this whole bug of GPT and GPT-3, intelligent computing, AR and VR. So you basically built another deep layer of understanding of, what is AR, what is VR, how do I understand spatiality, how do I bring that to, life. And then once you have this building blocks, you actually go and solve for problems that ask for such, solutions or opportunity spaces that are right for the picking. So there are a lot of designers that I know of who are also dabbling in this space. But yeah, the odds of you becoming a, pie shaped designer compared to an X designer is, there's a huge gap. Maybe in the next few years things will change, because a lot of things in design itself is getting uh, you know disrupted, if you will. Maybe 5 years down the line, for all you know, you may not even sit and, use the tools and actually create concepts. you know this is something called intelligent computing and creative computing, that some reports actually expect that to become mainstream by, 2030, 2035. So, disclaimer again, our jobs won't get stolen. It is just that the way we solve our problems will change. You may not necessarily sit and fire your tools and create some stuff. Maybe that's all taken care of. And you actually focus on where you need to focus, which is bringing the human side, bringing the people side. So, to summarize, there are multiple, flavors and variants of designers and perceptions, and, but yeah, basically you can boil down, knowledge versus applied areas, to these four constructs as of today. Maybe pi changes to something else. Maybe you become a circular designer, and circular design is actually an emerging, emerging trend, and there are a lot of people actually working as circular designers. Maybe, but nobody has codified what a circular designer means. And yeah, maybe when it happens, it happens. So yeah. So to summarize, you start as an individual, and you then actually broaden your applied areas, and you become a far more broader and a deeper expert in design. And then you move up the value chain, and you basically get into nuances of design operations, building and scaling design teams and delivering stuff and all of that. And on the other side, you can actually be a more stronger, and you can actually have multiple, you're a multi-specialist, designer, if you will. And that's what pi is. So now that, I've spoken about things, this is super important. Whatever has got you wherever you are as a designer or on your journey, uh, won't get you there. And what is the there is the short term, midterm, and the long term future, if you will. And there's an interesting book by the same name. In fact, I've used the imagery from the book. I think you should check out this book. It's a fantastic read. So you need to think about how you got into the domain, what you're doing, and what you want to do next. And trust me, there will be a lot of questions, there'll be a lot of gaps, there'll be a lot of things that you need to address. So that's what I just said. You need to figure out, am I doing on the right path, or should I, pivot? Should I become a different designer, or move from a designer to a designer come developer, and vice versa, and all of those things, right? So it's a very super critical thing that every single designer should actually spend some time on, and reflect upon. So that brings us to the future, right? I mean, yeah, future. The future is always near, but yeah. So what holds? What does the future hold for designers and design as a domain? Way too many things to be covered in a half an hour speak, but I'll spend the next 2-3 minutes on where I think the future is headed and what we need to do. The future is all about not just impact of design for B2B, B2C, billion-dollar unicorns and all of that. Those will happen. Those will actually thrive and strive. But the future of design, as I speak, as of this minute, is going to be all about the social impact of design. Uh, I'm assuming some of you, if not all of you, are aware of the UN, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. If you really look at it, all of these are opportunity spaces, or design problems to be solved. These are design problems that are complicated and complex. Solving complex problems are excruciatingly painful, time consuming, and all of that, but they are all opportunity spaces which will get solved. It is just a matter of time. So here, this is a broad canvas of areas in which you can actually focus, rather than looking at, I'm working for company X building product A, or I'm a service designer, I'm a strategic designer, I'm a researcher. All of that is great, that gets granular, but these are opportunity spaces, and this is the state of our planet, and these are the areas in which designers can not only thrive but actually make meaningful impact at scale. So, so to summarize, the future of design and designers is impact, and the impact has to be, social and societal, right? Otherwise, it's not going to go anywhere. Yeah. So all that is great, but what does it mean for us? Yeah. So the scary part is it is like evasive but exhilarating. We don't know. There are a lot of known knowns, unknown unknowns, but the journey has begun. There are some amazing things that are happening, and there are a lot of projections. There are a lot of smart people across the 7 billion or 7.5 billion of us actually doing funky stuff, wanting to make a difference in everybody's lives. But yeah, it is evasive. The future always is evasive, but if you sit back and think of the possibilities, it is unbelievably, exhilarating. So yeah, the designer of future has to be very, very diverse in thinking, has to be empathetic, has to be, inclusive in all things he or she does. And then, the future of design, lot of people call it circular design, a lot of people call it speculative design. So we, at Design It, we actually are very deep into, speculative design and circular design, and the company is, deeply integrated into that. And we have a lot of plans to do a lot of things, and we will definitely keep you posted. But yeah, I know I'm running short of time. Just give me, the next 2-3 minutes. I will just summarize what are the domains. UN sustainable goals are great, but what's happening in the world of design and innovation, right? Here are a bunch of things that are expected to grow exponentially like nobody's business. AI, human mission, biometrics, electronics, biohybrids, biomedicine, and social innovations. All of these are ripe for the picking. A lot of stuff is happening. There's a huge one or two examples, right? Indoor agriculture, for example, right? You don't need land, you don't need anything. How can you do, indoor agriculture is something that's actually being tested out with great success. 4D printing, we're all coming to grips with 3D printing and the disruptive impact that it has. 4D printing is nothing but 3D printing with the dimension of time. An example, there's something that gets printed, uh, you know in the drug delivery space. Something gets printed, and somebody swallows it, and actually this pill, this 3D printed pill, actually adapts to your body temperature, your condition, and actually shape shifts. I mean the very thought about it itself is so amazing, right? So there are a bunch of examples that are available, but radical foresight, and these are, like I said, speculative in nature, not with a negative connotation. But speculative design means you need to sit and speculate about, how might we do this, how can it happen in the short term, mid term, and long term. And all societal problems are speculative in nature, and they need radical thinking, radical application. And this is the space that all of us designers, can be happy and grateful to be in. We won't get a better time than this. So yeah, I know this conference is all about Africa and all of, and what does it take. So this is something that the whole world knows. I think i think the last billion, this huge scramble, you know between businesses and companies to actually come and pitch their tent and hoist their flags in terms of unlocking value that the billion plus people that live and thrive in continental Africa. Now, if you look at it from an African lens, India, I mean, where I come from, and Africa actually have a lot of commonalities. Though we are a country and you're a continent, different cultures, diverse perspectives, a lot of opportunity spaces, and yeah, all of these things. So if you're a regional designer and looking at contributing to the future of Africa from a design perspective, all of this radical innovations and foresight that I spoke about actually can be looked upon from an African lens. There's this huge another movement happening about, while businesses are wanting to scale up, a lot of you know titans are actually talking about scaling down. Scaling down means, how do I solve a problem for a specific set of people, a specific society, a specific culture? And that, I think, just like India, right? Africa is a melting pot of so many diverse things, so many interesting opportunities. I think it, it, it can't be any better in Africa also. I know for a fact that design is slowly but surely evolving there, and I only expect that to actually go northwards. And I'm hoping to see a lot of amazing designers actually evolve and thrive and actually make societal impact on a global scale. So I would like to take a pause, and I would take questions if there are any. Sorry about maybe, yeah, maybe there's a 5 minute overrun, but sorry about it.
No
But I'll
problem.
pause.
Yeah, maybe we can answer one question. Um, so, question number one: will the idea of disambiguating design does the idea of disambiguating design mean tolerating design narratives from all cultures, where we encourage all designers to have ambiguity tolerance to other cultural responses in design?
Can you, I'm sorry, your voice got choppy. Can you repeat that, please?
Sure. So, does the idea of disambiguating design means tolerating design narratives from all cultures, where we encourage all designers to have ambiguity tolerance to other cultural responses? Very long question.
Yeah, very, very interesting question. The answer is absolutely yes, which is what I touched upon like 30 seconds ago. Post World War and post industrialization and the technology advancements that we have seen in the last 80, 90 odd years, businesses was all about scaling up. Business was all about scaling up and giving value for the investors, value for the people and all of that. But like I said, uh, there's a movement that's happening about scaling down design. There are some interesting papers available and you can see it. Long story short, yes, disambiguation is critical, and one of the key tenets of disambiguity is basically looking at it from a lens of outside in and inside out perspective, and you solve for specific problems for specific cultures, specific histories, and specific use cases. For example, uh, like indoor farming, right? Indoor agriculture. It may actually not apply to everybody, but there are places on the planet where they are hit by the ravages of nature. Maybe they don't get water, maybe there's no rainfall. Maybe 20, 25 years ago, we are all resigned to the fact that it is what it is, and they adapted agriculture to their climatic conditions. But now technology and design and science, all of this put together actually has disrupted that. And as we speak, there are a few companies in Japan which actually do indoor farming at such amazing scale that they're able to actually harvest like 25,000, 30,000 pounds of lettuce every single day. So they didn't get there just like that. They understood the complexities of a specific culture, complexities of a certain cohort of people, farmers in this case, and actually they solved for it, right? Another example is reducing crime in areas across the globe where crime actually is very high. Simple things. What does street lighting have to do with crime? A lot of things. We cannot sit here, right here in Bangalore, in India, where I am, or from wherever you guys are across the planet, and solve for a problem that happens 7,000 miles away. Yes, technology has solved that kind of problem, but scale down design is all about more about people and less about scale. And once you actually do certain solutions, you can think about it as universal design, but universal design doesn't become universal design from the get-go. You actually solve for a very specific niche problem area, and basically success begets success. Once this is successful, you basically look at it from, okay, this helped people in Latam. Can I lift and shift a certain thing from Latam to people in Europe or people in Africa or people in Asia? So yes, I don't know if I answered your question directly, but yeah, sensitization to culture is very, very important, whether we disambiguate our craft and art and all that, because you have to be a thinking designer and not just a tool ninja. Like I said, you need to do a lot of thinking, introspection, and reflection before actually putting pencil on paper or pushing that first pixel of yours. So that would be my take. Cultural sensitivities and the thirst to act. That's what I keep talking about. You need to craft your curiosity as well. You need to be constantly curious. You need to absorb cultures. Only then you can solve for whatever problem you're chasing to solve.
Got it. Thank you so much. So yeah, we're a little bit over time. So if
Yes.
people have other questions, can they where can they write it to you if it's possible?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, two things. They can write to me. They can write to me, and they can look me up on LinkedIn. They can connect with me on LinkedIn, and be super happy to answer questions. Not just questions that they have today. They can feel free to ping me anytime. They just need to mention that they were part of WCT. I'm not marketing or anything. It just gives me a reference point that okay, somebody heard me and all of that.
Mhm.
Look me up as so my handle in LinkedIn is UX first. That's U for umbrella, X for Xerox, FIRST. Look it up, and I'll be more than happy to help.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys can find also all the information about the speakers on the website, including the links to LinkedIn. So yeah, feel free to connect. Thank you so much. It was a really, really cool sessions. I'm really feel sad to actually stop it, but unfortunately, we have to move on with the agenda. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for everybody, whoever has signed in and listening in, or people who will look at the recording later. So it was a pleasure.
Bye bye.
Bye.